where we left off, we had created a small experience here by stacking our meshes in the center of this environment that we had created, and we'd put a skeletal mesh in the center, and we'd also created a radial force. And if you recall, we'd opened up the level blueprint, and we'd wired all these things together using the 1 key. We'd brought in our radial force using the right-click menu, made a reference to the radial force, and we'd connected it to the impulse, spawned an emitter, and played a sound. If you missed this particular lesson, just go back a video and you'll be able to catch up. Now moving forward, what we want to do is create a small mini game where we trigger all this and fire a cinematic. Now what I've done in between is created a small sequencer sequence, and I can open that up so we can take a look at it. Created a folder with a little cinematic, and I've just double-clicked on the cinematic so that we can play it. And if I connect the camera to it and push play, you can see what it does. Just a little guy running across the top and jumping off the edge. Oh, that's all there is to it. Not a whole lot at all. Created a camera. I've given some parameters to the camera, changed the aperture and the focus a little bit. And then I brought in one of the mannequins. I've applied some animation to him. He runs across the top, and when he reaches the edge of the lip, he jumps right off. And what we want to do is we want to create an experience where we fire our radial force and we make our physics asset leave this space. And what we'll actually do is we'll bring in a couple more of these. So if we want to find out where this actor is, all we can do is browse to asset, and we find out that this is our physics asset. So let's actually put a couple more of these in the environment. So we'll just drag a couple more in. Maybe we'll put one up top here and rotate it a little bit. And why don't we put another one on top of this block over here and maybe rotate it in this angle. And now we'll have 3 of these guys. And what we can do is make sure that these are all selected, all of these physics assets, and we want to go down into their details panel here in the collision section and make sure that all of these are generating an overlap event. Make sure that this box is ticked, because what we want to be able to do is to put a volume inside of this space and make sure that these are overlapping that volume. So I can put a trigger volume in the space and make sure that it covers the entire play arena. So if I come down to the brush shape for that volume and kind of wiggle it into place, maybe 2500, along X and 2500, and maybe along the Z-axis, it's maybe 900. So now let's take a look at the size of that, and we can see that it mostly encapsulates my play space. Maybe 700 in height. That's good enough. Now this volume, this trigger volume, has the distinction of being aware of what's overlapping it. So what we're going to do is create a small mini game where this volume is aware if these physics assets, these characters, are inside the volume. And once they leave the volume, let's have them trigger the cinematic. So I can't say it's a very fun game, but I think you'll get the idea. By using the level blueprint, we can talk to the volume and then have it trigger the cinematic. We'll select our volume and we'll go back to our level blueprint and let's access it. And one thing we can do is we can just call a reference to the trigger volume, but you'll see here that we also have the ability to add an event based on the trigger volume. So let's open that up and let's see what its collision opportunities are. And we can see that we can on actor begin overlap or on actor end overlap. So let's take a look at this node. Now what this node allows us to do is that when something exits the volume or ends the overlap event, we can create some functionality. Now, some of the other stuff we want to do here in this level blueprint, first of all, is get a reference to all of those skeletal mesh actors. So let's call up the begin play node, which is available to all of our blueprints. So by right-clicking, we'll type in begin play, and we see that we get right here a reference to event begin play. And on begin play, we'll drag out, and through the execution pin, we will get all actors of a certain class. And you see that there's a utility node that says get all actors of class. Now this is a really important and valuable node, though we want to use it cautiously. And in this case, we know that we're only going to call it on a class of actor that has realistically only 3 actors. So it's not going to have to search an entire massive game and find hundreds and hundreds of actors. In this case, we just want to find all skeletal meshes. So as I start typing skell, it finds skeletal meshes. And when it finds skeletal meshes, let's find out that the output from there is going to be X number of skeletal meshes. So let's find out how many by typing in length. And we see that we have an array utility node called length. And we'll take the output of that and promote it to a variable. Now we can typically do this just by right-clicking from the output pin and promoting it to a variable. And we'll call this variable number of mannequins. And we'll connect the number of mannequins straight to the begin play execution pin. Now you see that when I created this node, it added to my variable stack right here. So when the level begins, it'll execute event begin play. It'll go out and find all of the mannequins, find out how many there are, and it will populate this variable. Now, having that information, I can come back here to my trigger volume, and I can get the other actor. And I can type get class, and I can make sure that that class is equal to class equals skeletal mesh. And I can come down here, make sure that it's equal to skeletal mesh. And if it's an equal to a skeletal mesh, let's type in branch to make sure it meets the condition, connect that to our execution pin, and then we'll decrement. We will start subtracting all the skeletal meshes that it finds. So we'll type in decrement, and we'll decrement the number of mannequins that it finds. So we've populated the number of mannequins here, and we'll start subtracting them. And we'll subtract them till we find 0. Once it's equal to 0, we'll branch again. And once that's true, then we'll play our cinematic. In order to get access to our cinematic, we want to make sure that it's available to us here in the level. If it's not in your level like this, we can go and find it in our level, and I'll just delete it here so we can find it again. We can just drag it into the level. Once we've got it in the level, make a reference to it in our level blueprint. And from the output pin, type in play, and you see that we have access to play sequence player. And right from here, if we meet the conditions of all of the mannequins, leaving the volume, ending their overlap event, we can play the cinematic. So let's see if this all works. I can compile and save my blueprint, close it, and give it a shot. So now all my mannequins collapse into place, can move around. There's one left. Get him out of the space. And now my cinematic plays. He jumps off, and now I'm back. And like I said, it's not much of a game, but it's interesting that I've managed to get all of these things to talk to the level and execute my final cinematic. Let's hit escape and try it again. Here we are. We can move around. And now start with one key. Wow. One guy went off right away. There's another guy in the corner. One key. Knock him out. And there we go. Executing our final cinematic as he jumps off. Now, if we wanted to clean this whole thing up a little bit, we can go back into our level blueprint. Maybe right after the sequence plays, console command, execute console command. Let's try restart level. See if that works. Oh, we need a delay. Let's try it one more time with a delay. We'll give ourselves a delay of however long the cinematic is. So let's open up the cinematic and see how long it is. The cinematic appears to be, let's display the cinematic in seconds, 6 seconds. So we'll do a delay of 6 seconds and compile and try it one more time. And then we restart the level. More or less it works. We can tune it a little bit, but you get the idea. Now we're ready to start all over. If I close that, the guy up in the corner will disappear and we're ready to start again. And there we go. He jumps off and we restart again. All I need to do is maybe refine this to 5.5, compile and save, and try it one last time. Play my cinematic. Boom. Not bad. Not bad at all. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to tune this one more time and let it play out. I love this. I need some music for it, though. Yeah, that's perfect.